Welcome to Alan Colmes Versus, where we discuss some of the more controversial things said in the recent news cycle on both traditional and digital media, the epitome of what we like to call around here fair and balanced. Joining me today, Executive Director, Gun Owners of America, Erich Pratt. Welcome, Erich.
Hey, Alan, good to be with you.
Your group have said a number of things about the nomination of Judge Garland, including this. Here's what your dad had to say. He said, happily, the Second Amendment, your dad, Larry Pratt, Executive Director as well, happily, the Second Amendment is all about people like Judge Garland, so there's a limit to how far he can go, I think. What does that mean, the Second Amendment is about people like Judge Garland?
Well, the Second Amendment is all about, ultimately, stopping tyranny. I mean, that's what the Supreme Court said in the Heller case. Page 25 of that decision said that the right to keep and bear arms is all about resisting tyranny. So we're not threatening anybody, Alan. I mean, that's just the outer guard, which is a protection. I mean, I know liberals always like to take, whenever we talk about the purpose and the history of the Second Amendment, they like to make that into a personal attack against politicians.
Well, it does sound like a threat when you say, in fact, I've interviewed, if I could just get in here for a second, Erich, we only have a short time. I've interviewed your dad, and I've asked him, for example, if that kind of a statement is threatening elected officials to keep them in line. He said,
Alan,
yes, it is. That's your position?
But to be fair and balanced, do you ask this of the Kanjorskis of the world, the liberal Democrat representative who said that Rick Scott, governor of Florida, should be put up against a wall and shot? Or how about U.S. Senator
Wait a minute,
John
simply
Kerry
saying, hold
laughing,
on. Wait a minute. The other side, simply
Bush.
saying the other side does it too. Erich, we only have a short time. Let's try to both speak here. Simply saying the other side does it too doesn't justify this kind of a statement.
No. My point is the other side is explicit. Alan, all we're saying is that the Second Amendment is an opposition to tyranny. I mean, it's the exact same thing that Hubert Humphrey said.
When did our forefathers who crafted the Second Amendment say that? Let me get the question. Erich, please let me get the question out. When did our forefathers indicate that the Second Amendment was for the purpose of possibly shooting or holding accountable by gun
you know what?
our elected
officials? It's why we don't
officials?
speak British. Alan, it's why we don't speak British. Come on. I mean, that's precisely what the Second Amendment is all about. And I realize you don't like that. And I realize your buddy that's been nominated for the court, Merrick Garland, supports your view on the Second Amendment.
He's not my buddy. By the way, you've also, if I could please get a, Erich, if I could please get a question.
Alan,
no, we can't.
Again,
Erich, please.
Why do you need me here, Alan? If you're just
I'm trying to get a question out, but
let me answer your question.
You keep getting in the way of me even achieving punctuation on a question, sir.
No, I'm answering your question.
And I'm following up. My next question is this: you've stated that he's against, that he's for gun control and against guns. What he actually voted for in on the D.C. circuit was to rehear a case, and rehearing a case is no indication of where he actually stands on the case. He's never signaled where he stands on the
Alan,
possession of guns.
don't be naive. He voted with 3 other anti-gun judges because they did not like the decision. They stood with D.C. And in an earlier case, the Seagram's case, when it actually went D.C.'s way, he voted not to rehear the case. So guess what? He is actually consistent when it comes to the Second Amendment.
It's only on voting on rehearing or not hearing a case is not an indication of where you stand on the case. He actually, Erich, voted with conservative Judge A. Raymond Randall. Wait a minute. But you're giving out misinformation. You're giving out misinformation. He actually voted with conservative judges like Judge Randolph, who was a conservative judge who's pro-gun. So to simply say you know where he stands on guns because he voted to rehear a case is not accurate, Erich.
Being appointed by Bush does not make that judge pro-gun. In fact, that judge has written an opinion saying that the right to keep and bear arms is a militia right. So you're wrong about that, Alan. Just because they have an R after their name doesn't mean they support the Second Amendment. You're absolutely wrong about that.
And just because you vote to rehear a case does not indicate where you stand on the case.
Again, he's very consistent. When it went the D.C. government's case, when a court opinion went their way in supporting their gun ban, he didn't want to rehear it, but then he voted with Tatel, Rogers, and Henderson to rehear the Parker case, which eventually became the Heller case because he didn't like the D.C. gun ban. And this is what you don't want to get out,
You're
Alan.
missing the point
you
of whether you vote.
The fact
you don't like my questions, which is why you don't let me achieve punctuation. You're missing the fact that whether you vote to hear, you're missing, Erich, that whether you vote to rehear or not to rehear a case is not an indicator of where you stand on the case
Okay, Alan,
itself.
you've made your point. We're going round and round on this, but you're absolutely wrong. He's consistent. He always takes the anti-gun position. How about that? Whether it's rehearing a case or not rehearing a case, or the 2000 case when he voted in support of the Clinton administration registering gun owners illegally and against the Constitution, he supported that 100%.
Actually, you're talking about the Reno case.
Absolutely consistent.
Actually, in the Reno case, there was no indication that he supported registering guns. That's just not true.
But that's what it was about. The Clinton administration was keeping those names for at least 6 months, which was against the law because they're not. It's supposed to be an instant check. They're supposed to immediately get rid of that information, and the Clinton administration was hanging on to it, and that's precisely, by the way, why gun owners.
Could you ever see using your gun to threaten a public official?
If they're breaking into your home illegally, but I guess you wouldn't have to. They wouldn't be worried about that in your house, would they, Alan?
No,
I
not
know
just
you're
breaking into your home.
Would you ever use? There's nothing to scare them there.
Would you ever use a gun on a public official because they didn't?
If I was a citizen of Burma, or how about one of the oppressed people living under ISIS? That's the times when you really need. All those places could use a Second Amendment. We have a democratic process here, Alan.
I got one final question. Are we in danger of what happened in the countries you just mentioned in the United States?
Well, those people living under that are certainly in danger. And I'm astounded that you would say that people just have to shut up and take it in those countries.
Never said that.
And thankfully, the people of southern Sudan were able to fight back because they got their independence.
Are we in danger of being in that kind of a situation in this country?
Not at this time, no.
All right, Eric, I thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you, Alan.
For more on Gun Owners of America, you can follow them on Twitter at Gun Owners. I'm Alan Colmes. Thanks for watching.